Hello everybody, it's Emily and I'm going to be talking about the rest of the books that I read in the month of October. There are a lot of them, so I'm just going to jump straight in. First, I listened on audio to A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the Wayfarer trilogy, and it's a companion series of novels. The first one is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which I also loved. So I adore this book. I love the audiobooks. I think the narrator is fantastic. And this book follows a couple of characters. So it follows events after the events of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. So in that sense, it's definitely, I think, good to read this one after that one, although it is a enclosed novel with its own set of events. But it follows two characters after the events in the first book, and it follows them in kind of the present day for this book, but also goes into the backstory of one of the characters and weaves those two narratives together in a really interesting and compelling way. That was just so masterfully done and incredibly clever. And again, I just adore this series. I love the characters. She really brings these characters to life. I love the world. I just feel so comfortable in this world. I love it. I love all of the species that are in this world. I love the way they relate to each other. And I love the commentary that she is able to really effectively weave into this story via these different species and the way they relate to each other and the way they live their lives. It's just incredible. I love everything about this series, and I will eventually, when I reread them, I'll probably read them physically and annotate these because there is so much here that I want to annotate, and so I'll do that next time I listen, or next time I read these books. I'll just read them physically and annotate, but the audiobooks are incredible. So for now, I'm just gonna enjoy the audiobooks and annotate later, but loved. The next book I read was Pride by E.B. Boy. So I also actually listened to this one on audio, and it is narrated by Elizabeth Acevedo. And she is a gem. I loved her reading this book. She's an incredible narrator and an award-winning slam poet. She has her own books that I want to read, and she also narrates her own books. And so she narrated this, and I really adored this book. I love the writing. So this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling where our main character, Zuri, lives in Brooklyn, and a family moves in across the street from her. And initially, this family kind of rubs her the wrong way, and she eventually gets to know them better, starts to like one of the sons in this family, etc., etc. And I love Zuri. She's an incredible character. I loved following her perspective, and she's incredibly stubborn, but so much fun to follow. And I love her, just the way she values her family and her community. She lives in an incredible community with a really vibrant family. And my favorite thing about this book was the way that came across, and just the world that she's able to build in this community, and how central her family is to this community. I love that, and I love that discussion about what it means to be a family, what it means to be part of a community. The romance was fine. The switch from her kind of not really liking the son in this family to liking him kind of happened a little bit quick for my tastes, especially coming from, the level, not really the level of dislike that she had, but I always am particularly suspicious of characters that really don't like each other or really have a misunderstanding, and then all of a sudden it's not just, okay, I see where you're coming from now and you make a little bit more sense to me. That jump to I like you is a lot for me, and so it takes a lot to do that successfully. And so I didn't 100% buy the romance, but it still was so much fun to see the main two characters interact and get to know each other, and I do ultimately really like the two of them. I needed just a little bit more in that switch to I like you for it to be 100% believable, but this was an incredibly written novel. It was so much fun and just so rich, and I really would recommend the audiobook. because Elizabeth Acevedo is just everything. I also got to read The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. Again, I listened to this on audio, and this was just so much fun. This was thoroughly entertaining. This follows Monty, and Monty is the son of a very wealthy family, but he's not really treated well by his family. He's actually abused by his father, and so that kind of is a lot of the reason he behaves the way he does, I think, and makes it a little bit more understandable. He's kind of a little shit, but you understand why he is the way he is. And he, in an effort to kind of contain him, he's sent by his father. So this takes place in England in the 1800s-ish, I think. And so in this time, it was actually really common for noble families to send their kids on kind of a tour of Europe to meet other rich, important people. And so in an effort to contain Monty, his father sends him on this tour of Europe to meet other people. And he sends him with Monty's best friend, Percy, who he happens to be in love with. But, hasn't really told his family or Percy that he's in love with him. And so it's the two of them on this adventure, kind of discovering their feelings for each other or exploring their feelings for each other. Also just engaging in the shenanigans that happens on this tour of Europe. Like, pirates are involved, and there's just a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on. And it is so entertaining. I love Monty and his dynamic with Percy. And, oh god, Percy is everything. I also really like his sister, and spoiler alert, I also listened to the next book in this series that follows his sister, and love that as well, but I'll talk about that one later. So I love the siblings in this. I love the characters. The world is just so much fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to this, and I will definitely be rereading this. This was, loved it. Next, I listened to Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha. This is also an incredible audiobook. I just had a really great month, or part of this month, for audiobooks. They were all incredible. The narrator was wonderful. And this follows Lay, who is kidnapped and forced to be a concubine for the Demon King in this world. She is part of the lower caste in society, and she is taken to be his concubine with 7 other women, and she falls in love with one of the other paper girls, is what they're called, and is trying to deal with her feelings for this other paper girl while trying to figure out how she can fight what she has been forced into. And this was incredible. I loved this novel so much. I love the characters. Lay is an incredible character. I really like the friendships that she forms. I like Ren, the woman she falls in love with. I loved the writing. I love the world. I really thought it was just really well done, and I liked the pacing throughout this novel. So this is going to be a theme throughout the books that I read. The romance between her and Ren, I do think happens, again, a little bit quickly, and I know that wasn't necessarily, there were other things that were happening, and so that kind of just needed to happen quickly to kind of keep the plot moving, and so I can understand that, but I thought it happened a little bit quickly. I just kind of felt like that needed to happen so that other things could happen and just kind of move on. But I really wanted a little bit more time to explore the two of them falling in love. But I still really loved the two of them, and they're incredible. And I loved the mythology in this world. I love the different groups that these women come from and how they're trying to fight for their homeland. But I also think it explores power dynamics in an incredibly interesting and in an incredibly well done way. So trigger warnings for sexual assault and exploration of those really dark themes. But she handles it in a really great way. She has said that she herself is a survivor of sexual assault, and so she wants to put the focus on how these women are feeling, how they're dealing with that, and their strength, and not necessarily kind of glorifying acts of violence or kind of putting the focus on that, but really putting the focus on the women, and really makes an incredibly powerful statement in the way she does that. So I thought this was masterfully done. I'm incredibly excited to pick up Girls of Storm and Shadow, which is recently published. I need to pick up a copy, and I'm really excited to continue in this series. So speaking of series that were a lot of fun, I also listened to The Diviners, and this was my favorite audiobook. All of them were incredible, but January Lavoie is just on another level as a narrator. So this follows Evie in New York in the 1920s, and that setting was just perfection. I thought Libba Bray really captured that spirit so well. So Evie has the ability to touch objects and see things about those objects and their history and the people that have interacted with those objects. And so she has a really powerful gift, and she uses this to help solve some murders that are happening in New York at the time. And it's creepy. It's so entertaining. I love Evie. I love her so much. And this is the perfect thing. I actually finished this on Halloween, and this was the perfect thing to read around Halloween. It gets dark and creepy, but it is so funny, and the characters are so rich. And just the world building in this is just masterfully done. Like, I loved this book so much. So much. And I'm really excited to continue on. And I will be listening to the audiobooks. So yeah, I really don't have much more to say. Like, I just would highly recommend, and I would recommend this for the fall, and would recommend the audiobook, because it really did not feel like it was as long of a book as it was, because I just could not stop listening. I could not stop listening. It was so good. So the last thing, and this was the thing that I read physically in the last part of October, and this is actually try not to get the glare from my lights. So this was the Fairy Loot edition of Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mohan. So there's the original cover. I actually really like when they do exclusive art on the dust jacket. I really like just reversing it and looking at the beautiful art. So this follows Lou, who is a witch, and Reed, who is a witch hunter, through circumstances. They get married, and she knows that he's a witch hunter, but he does not know that she's a witch. And shenanigans ensues. And so I have really mixed feelings. I'll start with the positives. So I really actually thought this book was funny in quite a few places. I really like Lou, and she has a lot of great one-liners. She's super spunky and feisty, and I really liked her character a lot. I also really like some of the magic that's in this world. It's not often that we come across magical worlds where magic truly has a cost, and that was a lot of fun to see in the magic in this world. So there were, some entertaining parts, and, I like some of the characters and like some of the dynamics between some of the characters. On the negative side, I thought the world building could have been better. The world was so intriguing. Like, I thought there was so much potential there, but it just wasn't quite there for the world building. This takes place in France in, the 1700s or something, just like some hundreds of years ago. And like, the potential was there. It really was. And I just didn't think the world building was as good as it could have been. And the events that ensued to have them get married were weird. So I was a little bit kind of iffy on that situation. For the third time in this video, we'll talk about me not buying the romance. She knows that he's a witch hunter, and it still does not make sense to me that she literally can watch him kill people and kill witches and fall in love with him. Like, I just wasn't buying it. And there were some not great power dynamics between the two of them that I think needed to be explored in a better way. For her being a feminist witch, she has some really negative views towards people in what she calls whorehouses. And I don't know. There also was a lot of, it's not a very diverse book is also another thing. And so there also were some racial dynamics in here that needed to be talked about. And I think Jessie from Books and Bowties does a much better job of that than I can. So I'll link their video below, because I think that's a much more thorough discussion about the racial dynamics in this book and how problematic they were. So just watch that one. It'll be a much better summary. So they're very mixed bag for me. Ultimately, by the end, I just was kind of wanting it to be done, as also just kind of the short of it. There were some entertaining parts, and it kept me going and kept me reading through the whole book. And there definitely were some things I enjoyed, but overall, I don't think this book was for me. Will I continue in it? I don't know. I'll probably wait for reviews of the next book in this series before I determine whether or not I want to continue. So we'll see. But yeah, mixed bag on that one for me. But overall, such a great rest of the reading month for October. But yeah, that's it for this video. I'll be sure to leave my Twitter and Instagram link down below, as well as my climate channel where I talk about climate change. So yeah, be sure to subscribe and follow me on those links below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.